I was so happy to be doing this film because I'm a fan of the franchise. I love Antoine and I love Denzel. So I was very happy to be doing it, and doing it in Italy. I mean, come on.
Naomi, thank you so much for sharing your time with us on the Movie Podcast today. How's your day going so far?
Pretty good. How about you?
We're doing so well. We're so grateful for you sharing your time with us today. We had such a great time with Equalizer 3. So we're really excited to be able to finally talk about it with someone who has seen it and worked on it. So, because we've been, kind of holding it to ourselves right now.
Well, I'm happy to be here, and I'm dying to hear what you have to say about it. I just saw it last night.
Oh, nice. How was it for the first time watching it?
It was really interesting because it was quite different than the script. And so it was really interesting to see what they'd done.
That's amazing. I mean, after all these years of work on it, it must be so fulfilling to finally see that, come to fruition, right?
Yeah, it is. Always.
And right off the bat, we have to ask you, how's your approach to finding the look to each Equalizer film changed over the years? Because, we've had some location changes. Obviously, this one, we're in a completely new country. What was it like, finding that look over the series of films?
I think the signature thing about the look is McCall's isolation. And in the first two films, he lived in different places. We basically sort of looked around for what is a place that you would least likely want to be in Boston, and found those places. The first time it was definitely Boston. The second time it was started out to be New York, and Jackson Heights in particular. And we found an apartment building that we loved in Jackson Heights, and we tried to reproduce that in Boston. So essentially what I'm saying is that it's his feeling of isolation and kind of hiding in amongst just sort of regular people with whom he feels the most kinship, but also without ever actually being intimate with anybody. In the third film, he does find himself not just feeling kind of a kinship, but a closeness with people, and beginning to and opening himself up to people, and people have embraced him in a way that it hasn't happened before. In the second one, there was that barbecue, and he was, they wanted him to be part of it. But in this one, he's trying to find a place to be, a home that includes other people. So that's the big change. We did try to be a little bit faithful, but an Italian flavor to the sense of isolation in the room that he has at the doctor's house, Enzo's house. So we did try to a little bit play with light in the same kind of way, and textures in the same kind of way, and a feeling of the room having been sort of left in time, the way a lot of things feel in Italy, and in particular, this room was supposed to have been Enzo's father's room. So
right.
Some of the same kind of references about the kind of place McCall would be in.
Now, when you found out that the film was going to be shooting in southern Italy, where did you begin, and what was something that you really wanted to incorporate into the production design of the Equalizer 3?
I was so happy to be doing this film because I'm a fan of the franchise. I love Antoine and I love Denzel. So I was very happy to be doing it, and doing it in Italy. I mean, come on. So the thing that I wanted was that that we would find a place where McCall could eventually feel at home. So that was emotionally the thing that I wanted from it. And then, what I was saying when I was, happy to do it, but also I'm not Italian. I worked there before, but I'm not Italian, and I don't know Italy like people who live there do. But it's not unique to Italy. And in any case, when you're doing a movie that's location dependent, you want the locations to speak to you. You want to learn from where you're setting the movie some sort of specific realities and specific details and truths about the place. And so really the thing was to look into Italy and get close to it. I keep using the word intimacy, but I think this movie this movie and the practice of location work has everything to do with intimacy. And then the script had specifically mentions a town that has a big mountain on one side and the sea on the other. And that condition is really in Italy only found on the coast, on the western coast of Italy. In the Amalfi, there's part of the northern western coast is called Liguria, and there are these tiny little towns that are very colorful. And we'd considered shooting there because the color was kind of so different than what McCall is used to. But they were so tiny that there was really, there was nowhere to shoot. They would just would have like tiny little like driveway sized place at the ocean, and the rest of it would be teeny little streets. So you couldn't shoot. So that went away. And then when we started looking at the Amalfi Coast, this town, Atrani, that we shot in, is different than most of the other towns in that the highway doesn't dip down into it. So cars don't, sort of dip down and, oh, now you're in whatever town you're in. Amalfi, for example, the road dips down and now you're in Amalfi and there's a lot of tourists there and blah, blah, blah. But this one, there's a bridge that goes right past it. And if you wanted to go down into it, you'd have to take a really steep turn or something. But you basically, a lot of people aren't going to drive there. So it's less, it's more untouched than other towns on the Amalfi Coast. And it's occupied, the people who live there are all descended from two families, except for a very few outliers. So that makes a really kind of a special atmosphere.
Yeah, it goes back to intimate, like you said, right?
It does. I mean, the whole town are related and, obviously all know each other. And, you find that out pretty quickly, and you hear everybody's stories and who's related to who and blah, blah, blah. And it really is a fishing town. It was. Now the people your age and a little bit older than you are working in trades and a lot of the tourist industry or professions, but not so much in Atrani, whereas the older people made their living from the sea.
That's incredible. And I'm just curious for yourself, when you're working on a project this size and you're going to a community that small, like what's the perception from like the community there? Like, is there any misconceptions of what you guys are doing just in, I guess just in movie making itself, right? Because it's such like a magical experience. And when you see the final product, I don't think a lot of people really think about as often or right away, just like all the little details that go into creating a project like the size of this one, right?
Everybody was really welcoming. I mean, there's nothing like, I live in New York City and, you see those movie trucks and you're like, but nothing like that. They were very happy that we were there. They were, for the most part, that impressed with, all the stuff that we do and all the millions of things that are going on. They just, they would like to we would have lunch together. That would be the thing that we would do. Or like, try to speak Italian or something. They were much more interested. Really, I mean, this is the thing about being in Italy. They're not, I don't mean this in a bad way. I mean this in a good way. They're not work-centric like we are. They love to talk. Sometimes, in my department, we'd be having to make a decision, and a couple of my incredibly talented and wonderful colleagues would be discussing it. And I'd be listening and listening and listening. Eventually, one day I said, if this was America, somebody would have pulled a gun already. Like, what are we doing? And get the decision. But they know they discuss it like a lot until they reach an agreement.
Right.
Wow. They're looking for an agreement. And, at the speed that we work, you can't always wait for that. But in general, that's what people are interested in. They'll talk and they'll yell and blah, blah, blah until something gets hashed out. So all of our crap and stuff, they didn't really care. They just, you wanted to like sit down and have a chat, buy a coffee,
that.
I
love that. I absolutely love that.
Is there something from the Equalizer 3, like a scene that you're extremely proud of and you really want people to kind of watch out for just that moment?
It's like I said, it resolves differently than it did in the script, and so that was surprising. And it moves very quickly, and it moves kind of from slaughter to slaughter, if I may say. And my favorite things in the movie, I loved the opening. I'm telling you something. I'm not answering your question with exactly what you asked, because it didn't hit me that way, but I loved that sort of psycho like music thing that they have. Goes, Did you notice that? Definitely. I thought that was extraordinary. And then the other thing that I just loved was watching Denzel kind of like draw out a moment and wind it around his finger. It's like, which he did on numerous occasions. He just sort of, he took it and he played it. He just played with it. And that was, I think, the most delightful thing to me about the movie. I mean, for me, having worked on it and being used to what everything looks like and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Of course. And I mean, and you're no stranger, obviously, to working with Denzel, working with Anton Fuqua. This is your 7th collaboration together. What keeps you two working together on these projects? What makes your relationship so strong that you're like, you know what? Next one, we're together again.
First of all, Antoine is, that goes without saying, really smart and really visual. And it's always, there are all kinds of wonderful directors, and some of them are more visual than others. And the ones that are visual, it doesn't take a lot to communicate what is wanted. It's kind of like if being a visual person myself, and you talk about something or you look at something together and you go like, oh, and you know what that's going to be in all of its unfoldings. So there's something about we connect on that level, and also I have to say on the level of human darkness, where it's never really a story unless that's part of it. I would say I feel like that about everything, and I think he does as well. I mean, that's where something truer than something not so superficial lives.
It's it's amazing to think, and you've worked together all over these years. I just think back to, what was your first film together? Was it Training Day? Was that the first time you collaborated together?
No, it was Replacement Killers. And
oh wow, okay.
And then Training Day.
Wow, okay. So you going into Training Day, you already had your you knew what your shorthand with each other. Yeah. It's amazing.
We did, but I will say something really that was very remarkable about Training Day. Antoine wanted to be completely faithful, like in reality, to the where the car was going, where the two men were going together during that day. We were not going to have like something or other look like the hood but not be the hood, and we were not going to have anything look like something and not be what it was. And that was I mean, it lent a lot of authenticity for a variety of reasons. First of all, the people who lived there, because we were there, and we got to know people who lived there, and we were in their lives and they were in our lives. And I, designing the movie, learned a lot from that, and tried to put it on screen. And I just can't help but feeling like the experience of it came through.
Yeah, it's a film that we go back to constantly, and I just think you look at all of Antoine's filmography, it's just absolutely incredible. So we really hope that we get to see you two continue to work together down the road, because I think there's so much more that you could hopefully do together.
Did you see Emancipation? Just curious.
Yeah, devastating film.
Yeah, I thought we did really good work on that.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's I keep going back to devastating, but it was just an incredibly made film, and performances and just production design and everything.
Yeah, that was another one of those experiences where I think it comes through. The harrowingness of it came through.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It was lovely chatting with you, and we hope we get to talk to you again one day.
Ditto. Take care. Bye-bye.